So how does one de-escalate the conflict in Israel versus Hamas at the moment? Joining me now, Fleur Hassan Nahum is Deputy Mayor in Jerusalem. Appreciate your joining us, ma'am. And I'm also joined at the moment by Professor Irfan Nuruddin, Senior Director, South Asia Center, Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C. Appreciate you, both of you joining us. Fleur, to you first. There seems to be less and less chance of any de-escalation of anything in the last few days. Bombardments are increasing. There are reports of more civilian deaths within Gaza. At the same time, anger building up in Israel. Give us your sense, Fleur. Do you see any possibility at all of any de-escalation, particularly with hostages still with the Hamas at the moment, more than 200?
Well, let me just add that everybody talks about the bombardments in Gaza, and people don't talk about the fact that we're under rocket fire here in Israel, in our main cities, and intensely in the south of the country. So much so that we have tens of thousands of people displaced right now from the south coming to Jerusalem and from the north coming to Jerusalem. So we are also under bombardment, constant from rockets. At the moment, I wouldn't say that people are getting angrier. People are very traumatized from what's happened, and people are very worried and in pain for the hostages. This is not a matter of anger and revenge. This is a matter of the fact that we have a terrorist regime in a border with Israel from a place that we left in 2005 in the hopes that the Palestinians would get some territory, that they could start the process of building themselves autonomy and a state. And instead, what we have here is Iran, a long arm of Iran here, the long arm of Iran in Hezbollah. So I don't see any de-escalation. I think Israel's been very prudent to plan this properly and not go in impulsively. And I think that's something to be said for Israel. And I think that many of the big world powers understand that it's not just a question of de-escalation or escalation. It's a question of the expansion of this as a regional conflict, because what we really have here is Iran playing a very dangerous game of chess, not just with the region, but with the world.
So what you seem to be suggesting, since you've referred to Iran, you've referred to Hezbollah, is actually far from de-escalation. You see this war now being fought on more than one front. Doesn't that worry you? Given the fact, again, that I repeat, there are more than 200 hostages still being held by Hamas, shouldn't that be the priority at the moment for the Israeli government above all else?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. As a mother of 4 children, I two of the mothers, one of them who has a child as a hostage, he's 23 years old, and his name is Hirsch Goldberg Poland. She's my friend, and we're family friends. And I know another mother who's got 2 little boys, 12 and 16, in there, and they haven't heard a thing. They don't know whether they're alive or dead. So for me, as a mother and as a leader, of course, the hostages is the most important thing. But you have to understand that we can no longer allow for a terrorist regime that doesn't just terrorize us. It's in their charter. They want to destroy us. It's existential for us to get rid of them. But they also endanger their own people.
You know, I'm coming back to you, Fleur, in a moment, because the fact is a public opinion at the moment seems to be getting sharply divided, Professor Nuruddin. There are those who are saying, look at what is happening in Gaza, the bombardment, deaths toll crossing 2,000, 3,000 according to some figures, civilians there being killed. Do you see a de-escalation at all, or do you think now it's spiraled out of control? As Fleur was saying, the Israeli worry is that there is an Iranian hand behind this, and therefore they will perforce have to expand the arena of this conflict.
So 2 different parts to this. One is the question about where does Iran fit into this and whether that leads to a regional conflict, which would be disastrous for the world. Let's imagine that that is something that nobody, not the Iranians, not the Israelis, definitely not the Americans and the Europeans want. And so I think you're going to see a lot of back channel already started, but really trying to make sure that whatever escalation occurs stays bilateral between Hamas and the Israeli government and tries to avoid any spillover over regional. Whether we can pull that off is a different question. On the question of what happens in the immediate in Gaza, I think I agree with the deputy mayor. I think, this could have been a very different story had the Israeli government gone in with ground troops a week and a half ago when that was quite a possibility. So this aerial bombardment, as horrific as the consequences are on the ground, bombs fall, people die, is still a chance. It gives us a window in which to continue to negotiate. There have been hostages released. Let's hope that we can continue to do that and that we can avoid the worst kind of consequences of an all-out ground invasion. That said, I mean, the public opinion question is a challenging one. The sympathy for Israel in the immediate aftermath of what happened with the Hamas's absolutely unconscionable, abominable attack on innocent citizens had shifted world opinion firmly over to Israel's side. That remains. But I think with each passing day, the question of what is the real plan for Gaza, can this be executed without incredible loss of civilian life among the Palestinian population, means that that equation begins to shift. Right. And I think Israel, I don't envy anyone. I have my sympathies to everyone living in that country right now. I feel that trauma. But I think the question is, how do you negotiate a moment in which the world recognizes Hamas for what it is without losing that popular sympathy in the world? And I think a ground invasion with the casualties that would inevitably come from that risks losing all that goodwill that Israel currently enjoys.
Fleur,
what the solution is, I don't know.
Fleur, is that the way you also see it? That the first challenge is to get the hostages back safely. We've had 4 hostages, 2 Americans, 2 Israelis being returned safely. Do you believe that's far better than any possibility of a ground invasion, which could involve a much larger loss of life? And that's the last thing we want to see. So, yes, it's happened before. There have been ground invasions of Gaza. But your sense, is there a firmness that first get the hostages out at all costs?
I would hope so. Look, I'm not a member of the Security Cabinet, so I can't tell you. I can tell you what the public opinion is, and I can tell you what the leaders that I speak to are saying. And for us, of course, the hostages are key. But equally, we are determined not to allow Hamas rule to continue in the Gaza Strip. I think they know that, and I think the world knows that Israel can no longer stand and pay sort of money through Qatar to buy a year of peace or buy a year of quiet. Those days when they bombard our cities in the south of Israel, there's a whole entire generation of kids who've grown up with rockets and running to shelters. I think this attack has basically made that no longer feasible. So whatever the outcome is, and I really do hope that they prioritize the hostages for us. Every life is, an entire world. Israel's a small country. Everybody knows somebody affected. Everybody knows somebody who's died. It's really awful right now, the trauma that the country is going through, the pain that we're going through. I've never felt this pain here before, and I've been here for quite a while. But equally as determined, whatever happened and in whatever order, is that Hamas can no longer continue to rule Gaza.